Here I'm asked to solve a quadratic inequality. The first step is to determine the critical values. Now for quadratics, the critical values are the zeros. So set this x squared plus 3 equal to 0 and solve for the two solutions here. Subtracting 3, you'll get x squared equals negative 3. Extracting the root, we'll take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. When you do that here, we're left with x equals plus or minus I times root 3. So notice here I got imaginary solutions. Just as when we're finding x-intercepts, when you get imaginary solutions, the math is basically telling us there are no x-intercepts. In this case, there are going to be no critical values. Okay, the second step is to make a sign chart. Sign chart is basically just the x-axis. It's just a real number here. But remember, there's no critical values. When you have no critical values, you're left with just one big interval, right? I cannot break up the interval. So you could choose any value as a test value. 0 is usually the easiest. If I choose x equals 0 and plug it in, I'll get 0 squared plus 3. Certainly that is greater than 0, right? So any number I choose, you can test that. When you plug it in, you will get a positive result. So just look at it. Here's the variable. So anything squared is always positive, right? Something squared is positive plus something positive. Well, that's always going to be positive. Now let's go ahead and answer the question. For the answer here, for what x values can I plug in here to give me less than 0? So when is it negative? Notice it's always positive. This expression here is never negative. So the answer is no solution. In the back of the book you might see a 0 with a line through it. Basically there is no value I could plug in and square plus 3 to get me less than 0. Okay, so no solution to this, no x-intercepts. Well, no x-intercepts, and the parabola, if I were to graph it, would always be above the x-axis.